All right, looks like we're live. Let's see if we can get this stream up and rolling. Welcome to Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, the program that always dares to ask the question, what the you know what? And has always brought to you by three of my favorite topics: alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. Yes, we're not politically correct here, nor are we worried about people's feelings. However, we'll say this much: we had to go age restricted on this because some of the content in this video may not be suitable for some viewers. And if that is such the case, then turn the channel, will you? Kind of sick and tired of this bullshit. But anyway, we got no filters here and we don't really give a shit. But I just thought real quick, wanted to go over some stuff and talk about things that we know, things that we surmise, things that we might think could happen in the future, and just kind of go over. I know a lot of you have been hearing everything on the talk radio and the news or whatever you follow about the events of this weekend, the attempt on the life of the former president, Donald Trump. And a lot of questions. And even some of you, we've entertained some of these questions before, and we're still having to go back over them and everything. And so we'll continue to try to help you out with this a little bit. I know there's a lot of people that have been in the field of close protection as well as security details, cordon sweeps, things like that. And you're going to get a plethora of different ideas. All of them, I'm sure, good in one way or another. And we're going to try to put some of this together based off of experience that, well, some of us have had. So anyway, just kind of a quick snippet. But again, I really don't want to butcher the gentleman's name, but first and foremost, our hearts go out to the family members of the deceased and those that were wounded. I was thinking about this today. These individuals actually took a bullet for the president. You know what I mean? When this individual started firing into the crowd, and I know a lot of people are making different comments about this, and of course, you've got all these armchair rangers out there that think that they would have done better, or I don't even want to say it like that, but you've seen everything that everybody else has posted, or all that you've heard the news media and some of the comments that were made that really are kind of sickening. And I think I said this last night, but one of the things that really kind of hit me was you've even got these businesses and stuff that are making t-shirts and there's trading cards and everything. Like I mentioned last night, there was a company, True Patriots or something like that. I don't even know if that's the name or not, but made these trading cards right after Trump was found guilty. How? I have no damn clue, because anybody knows anything about how courts work and how jury nullification works, it was a joke. But they came out with the trading cards, after he was convicted falsely and wrongfully and in a kangaroo court style fashion of 34 felonies. But that was one of those where it's like, okay, you're hurting the dude financially, but you're not really going after his life. So it was one of those where, yeah, we could joke about it because we know where that's going to go. It's going to end up in appeals court, and somebody's probably going to end up getting disbarred over it, if not a few somebodies. They should, because malfeasance, misfeasance, whatever you want to call it, violations of Title 18, Title 32, all over the board in those cases. I don't know how this person remains a judge and how some of the prosecutors keep their jobs, which, by the way, if you heard that the judge here in Florida has thrown out the case because the prosecutor wasn't properly appointed to a position that would allow him to make the claims and to push the prosecution of Donald Trump for those documents. And nobody else would have even tried it except this guy. And this just tells you everything you need to know about what the left is willing to do. They're circumventing the courts. They're circumventing the judicial system, trying to go around the backs of everything that is constitutional in this country just to try to make something stick. It's kind of the old Soviet mentality of show me the man, I'll show you the crime. Well, I'm just sorry, but that shit don't float. That dog don't hunt. Not in America. And it's time for Americans to get pissed off enough to affect the change that is necessary to start prosecuting people that abuse their positions of authenticity, of authority, and yeah, if you're gonna sit on a bench or you're gonna sit in an office as a representative and you're gonna abuse your so-called powers. Remember, you get power from the governed. You receive it through our or say so. People vote for you, but that's not enough. There's rules that you have to follow, and when you fail to follow those rules, there have to be repercussions. You're not above the law, right? I mean, we hear it all the time on the left. No one is above the law except the left. Well, those days are done. We're sick of hearing it, and you can hear it in people's voices. But I also I want to back up a minute before we get into the whole diatribe of what went wrong on Saturday at the rally in Pennsylvania and why things happened, because more and more video footage is coming out. More and more stuff is being discovered. More people's, I mean, everybody's got a camera and a cell phone now. So everything is being put out there. Um, but while at lunch today, uh, had a really interesting conversation with a few people that are from out of state. And it was along the lines of self-defense, and that being something that I teach and that I'm interested in and everything. I'm listening to the conversation. And of course, I get this age-old comment, something I've been hearing for the last 30 years as an instructor, military member, contractor, whatever, this misguided idea that if you have to use deadly force to defend yourself in your home, you better make sure that the person's inside your home. Otherwise, drag the body across the threshold. And I'm like, no, God, please, can I chime in on this one? And dude next to me is from New York, and I get it, folks. Love you, but I understand that the laws in New York are a little different. And if you tried that in New York, you'd still go to prison. It's I don't know where you're getting this information from, but that's called tampering with evidence, and in many cases, that's a felony. Um, so we have a thing called castle doctrine here in the state of Florida, and many other states have it. My home state of Ohio has it. Castle doctrine means if it is your property, it is your castle. It doesn't mean the four walls and doors and windows that provide you with shelter is the only thing that is your castle. You could be outside. Hell, I mow the grass open carry. As long as I'm not on the easement, I am on my private property. I can do that. You can carry on private property as long as it is allowed. You can't carry on private property when the owner wants you not to, and he can ask you to leave. Otherwise, he can have you trespass, and that's where law enforcement gets involved. But you do have a right. I get it. A lot of people get caught up on that because it's my right. You're absolutely right. When you're on public property, there you go. But when you enter a store, even if they don't have it marked on the door, if they ask you because they suspect that you have a weapon to leave the store, you must leave the store for any reason. When you make an argument about it, then they can have you trespassed. And who's going to win the argument? The store owner or the manager that's in charge of that store. So what do? You leave. And if you don't like it, guess what? Don't shop there again. Or don't shop under those pretenses. Those are the choices that you have. I don't like it, but that's the way private property works. You want people to respect your opinions on your property. You have to respect their opinions and their wants on their property. And that's whether it's a business or private residence, doesn't matter. So, I get it. And then when people get feisty about it, that's when things get really bad. And that's usually when they get escorted out with a new set of jewelry called handcuffs. And they end up getting a little bit of jail time because they wanted to push the issue. So you have to understand how it works. But anyway, I digress on this. But we're talking about this guys from the Bronx. And I'm like, look, do you understand the laws in New York? Well, yeah, you understand it's very difficult to get a firearm permit for most people in New York. Not that I agree with it. And of course, the Supreme Court has since stated that many of the laws in New York are a violation of the Constitution, but New York is just finding ways around it, and they're just throwing more stuff out there. And it's more stuff that you have to fight in court. And it's just a never-ending battle because we've never really nipped this in the bud. I think that's coming to a head at some point, though. It's going to have to, because I think the Supreme Court is going to get tired of being reminded of constitutionality of some of the language of these laws that people write that really don't do anything to protect anybody. And they're going to say, enough is enough. The Second Amendment says what it says, and we're going to get rid of everything, especially with Chevron deference having been struck down and everything. I think we're going to see a movement to that direction. And that may play into some of you guys' worries about Donald Trump's pick for the vice presidential seat, which is J.D. Vance. I said this months ago on my program on Facebook and other platforms as well, that J.D. Vance has not always been the pro A 2A guy that everybody thinks he is, and you might want to take a look into that. So it's something that we may have to petition and remind them, hey, it's the Constitution, dummy. But that's neither here nor there. But anyway, getting back to the whole thing, what happened on Saturday, and I know the big concern right now is everybody wants answers. And like I said before, whether it's this case or that case, whatever it is that we're studying, that we're getting all hammered about and everything, unless you're involved in it or you were there, you don't know. And therefore, and if you've never experienced anything like it, you don't have an experience to go off of, you're probably not a subject matter expert. The best thing to do is sit back and relax and, well, pull up a bowl of popcorn and a beer and have an enjoyable evening and watch it unfold. But did security fail? And the more videos and stuff from a professional standpoint, I'm going to talk about that. And I know I've watched a few videos. I watched Warrior Poet Society. John Lovell put a video out earlier today. And I know Guns and Gadgets had a couple videos out over the last 2 days. Legally Armed, Armed Scholar, a few of these folks that I entertain their videos when I've got nothing better to do and I'm sitting there typing up papers for my students and everything. But he brought up some good points and some things that I brought up in my video last night. I want to reiterate on those because I know a few people have been hitting me up all day today, and I'm like, just watch the video. I'm not going to sit there and hit everybody up with an instant message. I've got 3 businesses that I run, and I'm trying to keep things floating, and I don't have time to sit here and play social keyboard warrior all day. So we just do it at one fell swoop. How about that? But anyway, yes, security failed. Security failed big time. Now, I'm not one of those folks that's going to go out there and say that certain individuals shouldn't be in the Secret Service because of their gender or their sex or their color of skin. However, I am going to say this much. There are different jobs in the Secret Service that people can do. And there are certain jobs they can't do based upon their stature, based upon how their body makeup and things like that. And when we look at some of these, there was 2 women up on the stage with former President Trump when the shooting took place. And as I'm watching some of these new videos and stuff, because you can't see from most of the videos that came out right away were from the front of the stage. It wasn't until about 24 to 36 hours later you started seeing some of the video coming out from the folks that were behind Trump. And you talk about depth perception. When you saw the pictures of him looking over at the board and everything, and he made the comment about the teleprompter and not wanting to use it. I hate teleprompters, and let's just talk. And I love it when he gets like that. And because he's not saying pause. What? Wait, what? That was a suggestion. That's not something you're supposed to read, ding dong. But okay. So it looks like those folks sitting in the stands are immediately behind Donald Trump, but they're not. They're probably about 10 to 15 to 20 feet behind him. And there's some space in between where people can be walking underneath. And I'm like, yeah, that's good. That's good protocol, because now you've got an area where Secret Service, local police, state troopers, whoever you've got on that security detail can get to. Which, by the way, let me state something that I didn't state last night. I got it on the radio this morning. Our local talk show host, a guy named Bill Mick, give a shout out to him on this platform. And I love Bill. He's a former Virginia cop. But one of his callers calls in and immediately goes off. And I mean, it's like, all right, roll out the tinfoil, start the black choppers. Here we go. And he's talking about, why was the U.S. Army on the ground there? And immediately I know exactly what he's talking about. He's talking about the multicam uniforms, and I'm like, all right, I gotta square something away here. You do realize that a lot of law enforcement entities use tactical uniforms for certain field operations and stuff like that. Mostly your sheriff's departments are the ones that'll be using those uh, multicam uniforms and everything. But and I've made a comment about this on videos in the past, years ago, about the use of uniforms and how confusing it gets for people and why it's important that we keep police uniforms in a certain array. Yes, they need a tactical uniform for the tactical teams. I get it. They're more comfortable, they're easier to move in. You got pockets for gear and equipment and stuff. And sure, your typical uniform where the cop's wearing his clip-on tie and everything so he doesn't get choked out in a close combat scenario or something like that. And their little campaign cap and everything like that, those aren't exactly something that you would wear in a tactical environment, right? It's like the military has dress greens, dress blues. You've got the Marine Corps got their alphas, their Charlies, all these different uniforms, um, and you've got your utilities, and those are your everyday. Wear them in the field, wear them when you're working stuff. That's the stuff you get dirty, and there's a purpose for everything, but it's interesting to see that how quickly people jump to conclusions based upon an assumption, and this is what we try to stave off by talking about these things. All right, so that's one thing there. Give it a little, pay attention to the surroundings and understand what you're talking about, know what you're talking about before you open your mouth. But anyway, better be thought a fool than open your mouth and have all doubt be removed, right? But anyway, going back to Saturday, yes, there was a lot of issues there, and I didn't know. You saw the two females. There was actually three that I saw in those videos, but there was the two that were primarily on the stage, and the one that looked like she had a lot of them looked like they had a dark navy blue suit top on, but there was the one girl that kind of had the frosted hair, and then you had the other female that was up there in a dark black top, and she really looked confused as hell. My personal opinion is this was not your A team. This probably wasn't even Team Bravo or Charlie or Delta. This might have been Team Yankee. I'm not sure, but I don't think that it was your varsity team, number one. When you have a close protection detail, number one, especially when you're doing something like this, your close protection team, those are the ones that are right there with what we call the principal. That's the person or persons that you are trying to guard the most. They've got to be as big or bigger than the person, at least as tall, so they can block the view to that individual if this is exactly what you're worried about, an attempt on somebody's life, right? So the fact that you had two females out there who are significantly shorter than the former president is a no-go from the get-go. And one of the things that's been talked about a lot in the media recently is the DEI hires. I'm totally against DEI, and I'm going to tell you why. This right here, there was a former sniper on Fox News today, and I'm listening to it on, I think it was Clay and Buck. They played it, and he said, when you hire DEI, it ends up DIE. And you think about that. It's absolutely true. And this is why you can't, you just got to give somebody a chance. There are certain things you can do, and you got to know your limitations. I'm not saying that a female can't pull the trigger. I'm not saying that a certain individual can't do this facet of the job. And there are other jobs that person could have been doing rather than being up on the stage and trying to make it look like, see, we're diverse. I don't give a damn about your diversity. I give a damn about the safety of the principal. That's all that matters in that instance. And the fact of the matter is that if people are qualified, then let them apply for the job. One of the things that I made mention of earlier at lunch is, and I've always had a problem with this, that the Secret Service wants people who have college degrees or certain jobs in the FBI and everything, all these other departments. You got to have a degree. But what are these degrees? We've heard this comment before, we've heard chatter about, our institutions of higher learning aren't providing people with an education. They're providing them with indoctrination, and it's becoming the norm anymore. And that's a problem because that becomes a controlled subject group. And they're not really free thinkers. And when you're working a job like Secret Service or doing close protection, we did a lot of VIP security overseas. You had to be able to think outside the box. You had to put your head on a swivel and you had to pay attention to your surroundings because, especially on the asymmetrical battlefield where you got civilians on the battlefield, things change and momentarily, and you don't know who the bad guys are a lot of times because they're wearing the same clothing. Speaking of which, I saw where Demolition Ranch went on there earlier today, and they were talking about the fact that the shooter was wearing one of their shirts, and it really bummed them out. It's like, well, dude, I'm I'm pretty sure that Adidas or Nike or Puma or whoever wouldn't appreciate if their shoes are shown when somebody does something stupid. It's like, oh, great, here we go, we're going to catch it. And I don't think about stuff like that. I don't care what the person's clothing is all about. I don't, but some people do, and people take heart to that. And but I think we're barking up the wrong tree. But anyway, but when you're in an asymmetrical battlefield, and you have civilians on the battlefield, and some of them are your bad guys, whatever they be, terrorists or insurgents or a lone wolf or maybe somebody who's been orchestrated. I don't know. I'm not going to speculate, but there are theories. You can't pick the clothing that the person's wearing, and they tend to try to blend in. It's a form of camouflage, right? So everybody's jumping to conclusions because everybody wants to be right and have an opinion. But what do you know? Well, I know that one of these Secret Service agents, well, she was about 4 feet behind the president, and she was ducking down even lower than the shoulders of the guys that were covering the president when they tackled him. Excuse me, what? When you sign up to be a member of the Secret Service, you agree to, and you sign a little waiver, a dotted line, and it says, I agree to become a human sandbag in the event that my principal needs blockage for incoming rounds. If you can't do that, then you shouldn't be doing the job. Go drive the car, right? Put their ass in the beast. I'm amazed at that. And the fumbling around with the weapons and the lack of professionality. This looked like Keystone Cops. I'm like, if this person still has a job, how? Why? Then we're watching the other female as she's bobbling around. She's more worried about her sunglasses and everything. And why do agents wear sunglasses? Well, number one, because when you're out there in the bright sun and stuff like that, it kind of screws with your eyes. If you've ever been outside for a long period of time and things become blurry, and you got to keep your eyes sharp like a hawk. And number two, it's to kind of provide a certain level of anonymity. That way, people don't recognize you as much, right? But at that point in time, my primary concern is get the Don off the stage into the beast and get the hell out of there. Screw your sunglasses, right? Let's go. On me, let's roll. And when you're doing that and you're ducking down low, you should be standing tall, providing blockage as everybody carries or escorts the former president and presidential candidate of 2024 off the stage. Ducking and worrying about you. And this is the problem. When we start letting our emotions overtake what we should be doing. Emotion overtakes logic. And that's exactly what happened. Now we can get to the shooter on the roof. And I'm going to post these on my Facebook page. I may even put a little, montage together, but I've been pulling down snippets of different videos and stuff like that, and we'll give credit to those that have pulled it in. But it's all coming from this camcorder photo, these cell phone photos and stuff that people have been taking. But somebody actually put together a good snippet, and John was running it on a Warrior Poet, and it goes from 0 T minus, or T plus 1 to, and it's this group of people that are, for 2 minutes plus 2:04 is when the shots ring out. These people are calling out a person on the roof. And finally, somebody mentions that the guy's got a rifle, a gun. Very specifically, they mention a rifle. And the dude knows they're talking about him. And you can see him kind of move over, and he's trying to get lower on that roof. And he's on the back side of the peak, which might obscure him a little bit. But as I'm looking at the photographs and the different overlays and stuff that people have been putting together, and you look at the barn, the red barn, white roof that the counter sniper team was on. Now, I'm not going to go so far as to call this idiot with this rifle that committed this act a sniper, because he definitely was not. If you're within 130 yards of your target and even under stress can't make, then you ain't a sniper. No, you don't even get that award. Sorry. What did you get? The Darwin Award? But the fact that he couldn't control his rate, he couldn't control his fire at that point. And at that distance, look, and you know, somebody said it on the radio today, and I don't even remember who the hell it was. Going through basic training in the 9 weeks, 8 weeks, 9 weeks of initial basic training for anybody in combat arms, you can make that shot and make multiple shots because you do it on the range. That's what you're trained to do on pop-up targets, all the way out to 400, even 500 yards with iron sights. You don't need optics. You don't need all these fancy tools, because you learn what your capabilities are. You learn how to control your breath. You learn how to control the trigger. You learn how to keep sight alignment and sight picture. This person obviously didn't know what the hell they were doing, but they were definitely an unhinged individual. And that's why I say, when you talk about the blame, who's ultimately to blame? The individual. But if you're going to go so far as to say things like, well, Donald Trump was guilty of inciting an insurrection on January 6th for the things that he said that weren't even insightful. But yet you've got Maxine Waters going out and saying things like, I will take him out tonight, mentioning Donald Trump, right? Or Chuck Schumer talking about the whirlwind and you're going to reap it, Justice Kavanaugh. And then somebody goes to his house and is caught trying to break into the property so he can do whatever dastardly deed he decided he was going to do. And yet these people go unpunished. They don't even get questioned about it. Oh, we question them because we see the hypocrisy for what it is. We know it's utter bullshit. But do you think that anything's going to come of it? No. And this is the one thing that worries me, because I heard today that when Donald Trump arrived, I guess, at the convention and announced his running mate, he also said that had changed his speech. Now, I get it. Do we need a speech that unifies? Sure. Do we want unity in this country? Absolutely. But what I don't want to see it done to is at the expense of allowing people off the hook for the evil that they have done to this country. And I think that it's long overdue that so many people that sit in offices who basically garner their authority from we the people. We give our consent. They get the consent of the governed, and they have abused it not only to enrich themselves, but to lessen your freedoms and make you more vulnerable so you're more dependent upon them. And that's just not the American way. And people have had it. People have had it. I've heard some rumors. They say that there are more Zoomers, the Z's, the millennial generation and shit that are out there that are now starting to turn towards Donald Trump, especially after Saturday. And I don't know where you're getting your information. That's an awful quick turnaround, but maybe it's true. I would like to believe that maybe there's enough tow rope out there that people started tying it to their cranium and popped it out of their fourth point of contact and started to smell the roses. But I really don't believe that, because for 32 years, some of us have been arguing this argument for the Second Amendment, First Amendment, and warning people that this was coming. And here it is. And it's only going to get worse. I'm not trying to be a naysayer or pump you up and be a fear monger or anything like that. The Democrats do enough of that as it is. The technocrats, let's call them what they are. The point of it is, though, that you've got to look at things in a real fashion and understand it for what it is. That as we see all these Supreme Court cases come about that are kicking back not only some of the gun control laws that have gone on out there, as soon as you strike one or two down, one or two more come back up. Now you got Chevron deference, which was a great move because now you've just kind of nullified all these bureaucracies that have gone ad hoc and become weaponized and started making shit up on the fly just to suit a certain agenda. But I would like to see that once Donald Trump gets into office, because you know what you guys did. I don't know if this was orchestrated, if the deep state's behind it. I don't even care at this point because you know exactly what you did. You created an air where people felt protected enough to go out and commit acts like this. They thought that they'd be doing their part, even though, yeah, you may have seen a little combat on TV. You don't know what you're getting yourself into. You have no skill craft whatsoever, and yet you're out there trying to play hero for whatever, and you end up a zero. And let me talk about that too. It's like you got to dance around words on YouTube, Facebook, and all that. Listen, we're all grown ups here. And I hate the fact that I feel like I have to go age restricts this content. Look, play it for your kids. I said it yesterday. Play it for your kids. Your parents, you decide whether your kids want to see it or not. I think they need to hear this shit because they're the ones that are going to grow up and go off, and some of them are going to join the military, and they need to understand how we've pussified our military. They need to understand that that weakens our status in the world in a time when it's very, very dangerous to take, a backdoor stance to, or a nonchalant stance with everything that's going on in the world. Like it's not going to affect us. So yeah, share this shit with your kids. The cold hard truth is that life is not forgiving. And if you're going to play like, oh, everything should be unicorn farts and fuzzy bunnies and crap in utopia, well, you're going to be severely disappointed. You want to talk about why people's psychological health is going down the drain because people believe that shit. And then when they find out and they get a dose of reality, they're severely let down. That's why I always say try to take a positive out of a negative, but be prepared for the worst, expect it, and if it doesn't happen, then you're happily surprised. But if it happens, you're not surprised and you prepare for it. You always prepare for the worst and pray for the best. But prayer only gets you so far. Hope is a bad strategy, and the maximum effective range of an excuse is 0 fucking meters. Now, some people are asking me, what about the counter sniper team? They had him in his sights, in their sights for up to 3 minutes. Yeah, that's possible. I had a couple people that asked me, said, well, is it common for it? Look, I'm going to tell you this right now. There is nothing common in any of these. There are certain protocol that you follow. But then, too, you have to make sure that your recon teams that may go out and reconnoiter an area, not once, not twice, maybe 3 times. And then the day of the event, they're going to do it again to make sure nothing has changed. And somebody's going to be a liaison. They're going to talk to the people that are on the ground that are in control of that structure or that facility to make sure that certain things are taken care of. There's going to be initial security protocol put in place. Then they're going to go out and they're going to do sweeps weeks before. Then they're going to do sweeps the day before. Then they're going to do sweeps hours before. And they're going to do sweeps minutes before everything kicks off. And then they're going to do constant sweeps. It's kind of like maintaining sight picture before, during, and after firing a round, isn't it? Absolutely. Security is something, like I said last night, it's the first thing that people bitch about not having. It's the last thing on their books because they know it's going to cost them money. And it's the first thing that gets cut because of the budget. The one thing that I do find interesting about all this is that it was the Biden administration that allowed for the security detail to be what it is or limited it to what it is. Isn't that convenient? Now you got, and some people make a really good argument for this too. Yeah, Robert Kennedy running as an independent. Here's the son and the nephew of 2 Kennedys who were unalived, and it's like, hello, are we paying attention here? Seeing a pattern or anything? Name? Should we get in? He has no Secret Service, none whatsoever. Now, I'm not going to vote for the guy, but I respect the man, and I damn sure think he deserves a little bit of security. All the billions of dollars that we send to foreign nations that hate our guts, that are trying to destroy us from within, and yet we can't find a few dollars to get him a security team? Come on, people. Seriously? We dare claim we don't take care of our vets. We don't take care of anybody. They don't care about the opposition. It's like, you're scraping and clawing your way to the top, getting into politics and everything. And once you get there, you got it. And you don't give to anybody else. That's unfair. Why does it cost billions and billions of dollars to run a campaign? Why should it? The media, to keep their ratings up, should want an even and fair balance across the playing field of exposure to all the candidates so people can get exactly what they want and need. But no, when we're trying to push an agenda and push people in a certain direction, nope, we're only going to give airtime to those that we agree with. And they're going to have to pay for it. And who pay? How do they pay? Well, they collect donations, and people are dumb enough to give. Like I've given to, but I can only give so much, and I get frustrated. You guys are probably getting bombed as well. All these things. Hey, won't you please support me? Won't you please support me? I wish I had $1 billion to help out with, but no, I don't. Sorry. And then you get the big dollar donors and everything, and then you wonder why things go to shit. Well, then why don't we change the way that we get exposure to these candidates? You want to talk about redistribution of wealth? Well, there'd be a good place to do it. That'd be beneficial to everybody in the country. You want equality? There you go. 3 minutes. They had eyes on. I don't know. Somebody posted a meme saying, I was the sniper on a roof and I had him in my sights for 3. Look, first of all, I said this morning on one of the radio shows that I called into. It's like, first of all, if you look at the video, and I'm trying to take different angles on it because the possibility is there. That counter sniper team. Now, why was there only one counter sniper team? I have no clue. Money, budget. Met TC. I don't know. I can only speculate. But if I was that counter sniper up there, I'm not worried about, I shouldn't have to worry about threats being within the boundaries of 200 yards. I'm looking for the 1 mile away shooter. I'm looking for the 800-yard shooter. That's what I'm thinking is more likely to happen because that's more likely outside your outer cordon. Something like this is easier to protect against in that aspect in an inner city because you'd have tall buildings and things like that blocking those long distance shots. And you'd probably have a certain area where, okay, we just need snipers on every roof, looking at every window, several teams, spotters everywhere. So they can call it up, guys with binos, looking at every window that has access to the foreground, right? But when you're in an open area like this with a lot of woods, it makes it a little more difficult, especially when you have a limited team. But if he's staring through that scope and looking at distance, first of all, eye fatigue over time is going to set in. And that individual, the shooter, could be right under your nose and you wouldn't even see it. But that's why you have other people. Why wasn't there somebody on that roof? Or if you're not going to put somebody on the roof, why was there a ladder giving access to that roof that was stationed there? Why wasn't that taken down and or covered up or boarded up or something? I mean, hell, if you go to the extent of welding manhole covers when, a motorcade or something goes through a city, why wouldn't you go to the extent of blocking off that ladder or a stairwell or something like that? Even if it's just outside. They had magnetometers. Well, how close was your inner cordon? It must not have been that damn big. And who planned this? Kimberly Cheadle? I don't know. I do know this. Here's your diversity hire right there. You know where Kimberly Cheadle came from? Oh, yeah, she was head of security for PepsiCo. I'm pretty sure that nothing that you've done with PepsiCo is anything close to having anything to do with something like what happened on Saturday. I'm pretty certain of it. I'm pretty certain that yours truly and a lot of other guys out there doing the same chatter have done a hell of a lot more in a lot more diverse environments than what Kimberly Cheadle did. How did she get that job? Oh, there's another one of our diversity hires. Oh, you're just going after because she's a woman. No, I'm not. And I'm not saying this. Look, my daughter's a Marine. My daughter performed in basic training. Her PT test on the boys scale beat about 75% of the males. Scored second highest score on the rifle range. Might have had something to do with that. But she's a go-getter. When she puts her mind to doing something, she goes all the way. Not saying that women can't do the job. Hell, she squats 350. It's like, Jesus. All right, kid. You're killing me. But it's kind of like, saying, oh, well, we did this. It's diversity. Yeah, but did you hire the right person to fit the diversity position? If you're so worried about covering down because of what it looks like, that it costs people their lives, then you did it for the wrong reasons. And you shouldn't be making decisions either. If you're more worried about how something looks on the surface and you can't argue the point that, hey, the person's not qualified for the job. Oh, you saying that just because I'm a woman? No, I'm saying that because you're not fucking qualified. And it was proven on Saturday when two of your other diversity hires ducked and covered. And even if they didn't, they couldn't have possibly covered a man who's what, 6'3", 6'4"? I'm 5'5", and I'm going to tell you right now, there's no way if I worked for the Secret Service that I could do the presidential detail because I can't possibly be a blocker. I could be a shooter. I could patrol the outer cordon. I could do the recon. I could drive. Put the president on my back, even though my bad knee would probably go out now. There's other jobs they could be doing. Use of your, that's the thing. In the military, you've got to know everybody that's in your team, your squad, your platoon. You've got to know your strengths and your weaknesses, and you've got to utilize them properly. Otherwise, you're just wasting everybody's time and effort. And that's what's people unalived. Now, we thank God that 45 didn't have any more damage done to him than getting the top of the lobe of his ear bitten, so to speak. The fact that a husband, a firefighter, a father, protecting his family from incoming fire, had to go out. And I saw for the first time tonight some of the video that was taken on the, well, as you're facing it, the left side of the stage. And they were telling him, we need a medic up here. We need a doctor. This guy's got a wound to the head. And the other individuals that had been hit that are in critical condition. And if you've heard anything about their condition, would love to hear from you. Hopefully those people make a speedy recovery. Like I said last night, I would love to see something. Since this guy was a firefighter, I would love to see somebody take up some money for this guy, or Tunnels to Towers come out and help the family out. Because he looked young enough. He's still working. That's going to hurt. Not as much as the pain of losing a father and a husband. I wouldn't know because I don't have a husband and I haven't lost my father. I know that's coming. We're all going to face that someday, but in that fashion, there you are. You're out there. It's sunny. You're in your shorts. You're going to go there. You're going to listen to 45 give his speech. You're pumped up and everything, and show your support, and then that happens. And then, every once in a while, I get some jackass that wants to get on one of my channels, and they spew some hateful shit. You do your worst because you're a shit bag. I got nothing for you. You're not worth the effort. But you are a fucked up human being. If you can say shit like, well, like the one woman said, well, maybe these people need to get some training so next time they don't miss. Oh, really? Really? Okay. When you say it in that manner right there, you're just as guilty as the shooter was. Why aren't those people being questioned? Right? I seem to remember a whole bunch of parents that went to school board meetings and were brandished terrorists by our own FBI because they expressed concern over what was being taught to their children, read the books out loud, and they were told to shut up in the chambers because the people didn't want that getting exposed. It's interesting how criminals and people performing criminal behavior and stuff that just isn't morally right often like to hide in the shadows and give plausible deniability to an issue, but then you know that that's exactly what's happening. And why does that happen? Because we tolerate it. And why do we tolerate it? Because we're told that if we speak out that we're being intolerant or you're a racist. How is that being racist? I'm concerned about my child's mental well-being. Has nothing to do with race. You're going to sit there and preach morality. You got to be 21 to own a firearm or drink a beer or a glass of whiskey. But you can die for your country at the age of 18, and you can chop your penis off at the age of 5. That's sick. That's twisted. Anybody that feels like that, I'm sorry. I don't care who you are. You're sick, you're twisted, and well, there's a room reserved for you way, way down below. We have a problem in this country, and that we, the moral majority, have forgotten that once in a while, you got to play hardball. When you're dealing with criminals, when you're dealing with evil, you can't back down from it. You can't give it room to breathe. And it's a never-ending struggle. I get it, and we get tired. But if you give up, this is what happens. If you become apathetic, this is what happens. If you get lazy, complacent, this is what happens. When you're overstimulated and over entertained, and you always now you become just like the rest of the entitled out there who feel that it's your job to provide for them, whether it's the oligarchy, whether it's this lazy asses that just think they're entitled to your shit, your money. But then you become just like them because, well, you're not doing anything about it. Have you written anything to any of your Congress people? Have you gotten out and written an article or posted something in a newspaper, an op-ed? Have you petitioned your government? Made your voices heard? Have you gone to a city council meeting, a school board meeting? Why do people like this think that they can prevail? Because nobody's calling them out on it. It's ridiculous. Yeah, security sucked. Security sucked Saturday. It was amateur hour. I know a host of guys that could have put together a hell of a lot better security team. I'm not saying all of them were bad, but enough of them were bad and enough was overlooked. And then I heard that the Secret Service was trying to blame local PD. Hey, you all taking a bite of that shit sandwich. You all own it. You either go into a situation like this when you do a 7-paragraph op order and you're sitting there talking about friendly forces to your left and to your right, you better work with them. You better learn what their capabilities are and you better utilize them to the best of their abilities. And you better provide some teamwork instead of acting like FEMA usually does, going into a situation, trying to take over, and then nothing gets done right. It's gotten better over the years, but you remember how it was in the 90s. And here's another question. I get it. Most civilians, when I say civilians, I'm talking about people with no prior military training or whatever. And I'm assuming that all those people standing there at the side of that tan building with that white steel roof that shooter was laying on, calling him out for 2 minutes, and the police didn't say. And they said, I heard that one cop went up the ladder, but because he was hanging onto the ladder, couldn't. It was a vertical ladder too, so I guess like a barn ladder. A little more difficult than if it's leaning. I get it. Couldn't get his pistol out. Went back down the ladder, and that's when the shots started going off. And that's when, if you see all these videos side by side, you see the counter sniper team go from vertical position to top down position. And he looks over the side of his gun, he looks back down in, and that's when the shots are taken. Only after 5 or 6 shots get off from the rifleman that's on the roof. Too late at that point. Somebody suggested, well, maybe they have to get orders to fire. They have to be cleared to fire. And in some cases, yes. People keep coming to me and asking me, is that protocol? It depends on the mission, the unit, and how they function. Everybody's SOP is different, and every scenario is treated different. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. We don't know. Until that guy becomes a whistleblower and says, yeah, I was told to stand down, Benghazi, Benghazi, Benghazi. We're not going to know for sure. So at this point, it's mere speculation. But it's a possibility. So there you go. You take everything that you find out there, and here's a little experiment for you. Start a little chart, a little flow chart. Those things that are possible, those things that are probable, those things that we know, and those things that are like so far-fetched that, well, highly unlikely to know it didn't happen. And just start breaking it down and seeing if it passes muster. But anyway, told you I wasn't going to keep you too long, and I'm losing battery, so it's time to cut this off. It's 52, 53 minutes here. But anyway, I appreciate you guys. I hope this helps you understand a little bit. Yeah, I'm still pissed every time I watch the video. It just makes me more and more pissed off. I still say one of the most, we're going to run. I've started saving some photos, some iconic photos with presidents in them. And this is going to be one of them, one of the most iconic. Ironic. Somebody got, whoever it is, I hope you get some notoriety or something out of it, because that was a beautiful picture. Looking up, and there's Donald with his hand out like this, saying fight, fight, fight. And the flag up there on those wires behind him. And it was like, dude, you couldn't have staged it better than that. Take a positive out of a negative, right? Anyway, God bless the Republic. That's what I got to say right there, guys. In the meantime, stay frosty. Keep your head on a swivel, right? When you see something, say something. I get it. Yeah. If you see something like this, that was the last. I'm sorry. Let me back up. That's one thing I was going to ask. Why didn't anybody else take the time to jump up there? There was a time when somebody would have. Yeah. Just what do? Fucking filming. Not thinking about anybody, but getting our 15 minutes of fame. Shit. You could do a YouTube video for that. You could be like that kid on that train in France. Just saying. All right, guys. Keep your powder dry. Keep your mags loaded. Keep your EDC on you at all times. If you're going to carry. If not, shut the fuck up. Train a little, train a lot. Till next time, this is Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, and I'm out.